Welcome to the Reasons to Reason podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sal Galati. This is the show that's going to talk about all the things we're not supposed to: God, religion, and politics. So strap in, prepare to get offended, and maybe, just maybe, our nation can learn how to reason again. Thanks for joining us for another episode. I have in a guest today that I met recently at the train station. He was getting signatures for his campaign to run for Cook County Sheriff. His name's Brad Sandefur. And, I always respect the person out there getting signatures, especially when they're getting them for themselves. And I looked him up real quick, and he just sounded like common sense type of guy. I offered him to come on. He said yes. He's out there getting signatures for himself. There's a lot of money in politics in our state, and especially on the Democrat side, I would say almost exclusively. They have armies of people paid that go around, running around, getting signatures, doing all this legwork for the candidates. And there's absolutely no money on the side of just people that are citizens that want to volunteer, dedicate their time and service to a job that needs to be done. So I hope you help us get this message out, spread it around, and I want to introduce you to my new friend, Brad.
Good morning, everyone. As the gentleman has told you, my name is Brad Sandefur. I've been working for the Sheriff's Department for 35 years. I have a master's degree. I've worked with all kinds of big law enforcement agencies, trained with them. So I've trained with the Secret Service, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and the FBI. And I have seen the Sheriff's Department go downhill. Morale is down. We're letting more criminals out than we're keeping. We're locking up the mentally ill. Cook County has for years been the largest mental health hospital in the entire state, and jail is not the place for mental health. All they do is maintain. They do not improve. I think we need more psychiatric residential facilities and less putting mentally ill people in jail. We are so hyped up on accountability, we forget about being reasonable and how can we help these people. If you have a true mental illness such as autism, and I have 2 autistic children, you cannot help them if they're in jail. You need to put them in a facility that can teach them how to stand up for themselves, can work through their problems, because they can get trapped in their own mind for hours at a time. And putting an X on the back of these people after they already have mental health illnesses is not the right way to go.
Man, thank you for that. As I've gotten older and met people in law enforcement and military, I'm always just encouraged by what a heart they have, empathy they have, care, love, what you just shared there. You know how to do the job, you've done it, and you have all those qualities. And that's why, you see when there's corruption, the people that have done the job are rarely the ones that elevate to run those organizations. It's usually political people that know how to lie, scheme, and cheat to get into power, but they really don't know how to do the job. And they run on those words of compassion, empathy, and love, but they have none of it. I was talking with some women from the South Side that have been brutalized these last 2-3 years with crime, with the migrant issues, and the politicians lie, and they don't talk about what's really going on, and the people suffer for it. So just thank you for your heart in that. I wanted to just get a little background on you. Who made you who you are, influences in your life, how the man that I'm looking at right now was shaped.
Well, I've had hard times. I've had good times and bad times. I was raised in Southwest Indiana. When I was 3 years old, my parents got divorced. My mother got married when she was only 14 years old. Dad was 21. Of course, they had 3 kids by the time she was 17. So it didn't last long. My mother left us with a babysitter for more than 24 hours one night, so we were taken away from her. But this was in the early 60s, and they would not give children to a single father. So they made us wards of the court. So I was raised in foster homes and group homes. And contrary to popular belief, the foster system is not necessarily as bad as you hear. So I was raised like that. When I was 9 years old, my father was able to gain custody of us. I was a high school athlete. I wrestled. I ran. And then I moved to Chicago when I was 18, wound up homeless. My older brother was actually a bully, and he picked on me and my little brother. And so he got shipped up to Chicago a couple of years before. And I came up later after I thought he'd calmed down and told me there was a job for me. There was no job for me. So I wound up homeless. So I know what it's like to be homeless. I know what it's like to eat out of garbage cans. I know what it's like to have no place to sleep. I know what it's like to do well, because growing up, my mother was a model. And she hung out with some very famous people. In fact, for those of you who know the name, she lived in Vegas. Her best friend was a guy named Buddy Hackett, who was a comedian, and he made many movies. My father was just your average Joe factory worker, but he never gave up on us. So my heart, my integrity comes from him, my father. He, no matter what, would not give up on his children. He fought many, many years to get us back, to raise us. And my mother just flew in once a couple times a year, spent a lot of money on us, and took off. But when I moved to Chicago, she was who I lived with. Then I joined the Marine Corps in 1980 to get out of being homeless, really. And while I was there, we caught an escaped prisoner, so we got an award for that. And then I got out of the Marine Corps in 1981. And in 1990, I got hired by the Sheriff's Department. And that was a story and a half. This show doesn't allow for me to do that, but a lot of people who took the test after me got hired before me, and it was clear political influence. I was told, once I went to my first week at the academy, I was told by people I'd never met to watch my back because I had knocked a politician's son off the hiring list. And all I did was go up and demand to be treated equally. I said, I qualified, I had the highest score in my test group. Why are you not hiring me? And there's a lot more to the story than that, but that's the short version of how I got hired at the Sheriff's Department. That's how I got promoted to sergeant years later. I kept passing the sergeant's test and would be passed over because I didn't know anybody. So I went up and I asked the executive director, why are you not promoting me? I had the highest score. I'm recommended by everyone. And he had no reason. He says, let me check into you and I'll call you in 2 weeks. So I've been a sergeant for 28 years. During that time, I've worked for the street units, became a certified police officer. I've worked every division in the jail. I've worked the records office, classification office, the transportation unit, which is my actual assignment, is I'm a supervisor for the transportation unit where I was the shift commander for 7 years. 7 years shift commander in the records office, shift commander in the central kitchen. So I have a lot of experience leading, but I don't want to lead by myself. I want to have committees of people who come and tell me what their experiences are when it comes to policing a neighborhood. I don't want to police the northwest corner the same way I police the southeast corner. It's a different group of people. They have different beliefs, different lifestyles, different problems, and you need to adapt your programs to suit that area, whatever area it is, this suburb, that suburb in the city. And that's the way you need to run the department. You need to talk to the deputies at ground level, not the directors, not the superintendents, who many came from outside and have never done the job, like Tom Dart. Tom Dart's never put handcuffs on anyone. Tom Dart was never a police officer until they passed a law that said you have to be a police officer to be the sheriff, but the exception was if you were already in office. So after being the sheriff for 16 years, he finally decided, well, maybe I should go find out what it's like to be a cop and go to the academy. But he didn't even go to the academy. He went a couple hours a day. In fact, one of his trainers was a guy who ran against him in the Democratic primary in the last election. He never did what we did, 10 hours a day, running and jumping and cuffing and actual class work. I don't know how he got certified, but he got certified. And like I say, he's done ride-alongs. You show him on the news every election year. They'll put him on the news to get his name out there while ignoring all the rest of the candidates, such as myself. And that, again, is the political game that we've been mentioning here. I don't want to play the political game. I am not a politician. I am a law enforcement officer. That's what I was in the Marine Corps. I've done private security. I've done legal investigations. I was a Rosemont Auxiliary officer, and now I've been a deputy sheriff for 35 years. And I can see it going into the ground, and I can see we're letting criminals out. Last week I signed a paper to let a man out who had an 83-page criminal history. The week before that, 72-page criminal history. But these new laws, the Safety Act and the Pretrial Fairness Act, require us to put these people back on the streets. And you can, if you watch conservative news reports or even middle-of-the-road fair reports, you will discover that they are constantly saying, this man keeps getting out over and over again. It was just in the newspaper that a judge let out a man who had been arrested 14 times, and then he went and killed somebody. We keep doing these things. I do not understand how that is keeping anyone safe.
This show is officially sponsored by American Rose Coffee. They're not just a coffee company. They're about fueling bold ideas and real conversations. Every roast is crafted for people who think deeply, challenge the norm, and live with purpose. If you want coffee that matches that mindset, head to AmericanRoseCoffee.com. That's American Rose Coffee. Bold coffee, bold conversations. You know, I really don't know Brad. We just met at the train, but then you asked this question, tell me about your background. I'm blown away at your background. I mean, and that's just a encouragement to everyone out there. Talk to each other, learn from each other. People walking around, you never know, he's wearing a t-shirt and black cargo pants, and I would never have known the depth of experiences you've had. A couple things. Where is the publicity for this guy? We got, essentially, the media runs as a PR arm for this guy, Tom Dart. letting them lose fantasy right along, and they purport it on the news. It's what we're trying to accomplish with this show, is get real people's voices out there and heard. I think in that answer that you gave me, we have a real insight into the type of people that get into power in a corrupt system. People that don't know the job, aren't accountable, don't really care, bully you, demean you, harass you, and it's got to stop. You mentioned these people that keep getting out there and committing the same crime. When I got to know police, what I learned from talking to them is they all said, hey, Sal, if we were allowed to do our job for a couple weeks, crime would go down 90%. I didn't understand at first, and they said, we know where they all are that are committing crimes. It's a very small percentage of the population overall. And when you start actually enforcing the law, the ones that are kind of just doing it because they think they can get away with it, they stop too. And we're seeing that in action in what Trump is doing in D.C., and hopefully we don't have to get the federal government involved to do this, but put pressure on the politicians. Hey, you can stop it if you want. You have the resources to do it. Just do it. So that gets me to this question I want to ask you. Tell me about the issues that no one's talking about. We got the issues that the media jams down our throat. Give us more of those insights into what goes on in this system that you just kind of shared with us before.
Well, the Sheriff's Department plays to the liberal side of everything. And I don't believe in calling people by the pronoun they want to be called by. I believe we have the English language and it works just fine the way it is. And if you're a man, you're a man. And if you're a woman, you're a woman. Now, I point this out because the Sheriff's Department says that I must call someone whatever they identify. So if you identify as a fire truck, I'm supposed to call you a fire truck. I'm not going to do that. We also have internal problems that the public doesn't care about that much. They just want to see law enforcement, which they don't see because we are so restricted in what we can do. We're not allowed to pursue anyone. Well, they changed that. Now you can pursue someone, but every time you do, they write you up. I'll be honest with you right now, I'm facing a suspension because I chased two bad guys and I caught them. It was a pursuit. I did everything exactly right, and they're trying to suspend me for 120 days. So this is why your law enforcement officers aren't doing their jobs the way they should, the way they could. The other thing is this: we've gotten so wrapped up in what defines police abuse, excessive force. If I grab someone by the arm and they start punching me and I punch them back, I'm going to be charged with excessive force. I watched cops wrestle a guy, 3 of them, and they should have easily been able to take this man down, and they couldn't because all they're trying to do is grab him by the arm or grab him by the leg. Someone is big and strong, or if their skin is a little bit slick, or it's cold outside, and you try to just grab people by their arms and legs, they can easily get away. It makes it very difficult for us to do our job, and in the meantime, they can do whatever they want to us. And some people do not understand the law. For instance, we have a lot of conversations about shooting unarmed people. And I was told not to say this during my last campaign, but the truth is it's not against the law to shoot an unarmed person. Depends on the circumstances. But if you do it now, they're going to malign you. They're going to accuse you, particularly if that person was a minority. And the truth is more than twice as many Caucasians who are unarmed are shot by the police as are minorities who are unarmed who are shot by the police. And all but 2 of these shootings have been found to be legitimate. And sometimes the ones they say are not legitimate is because they're being too liberal. They are misinterpreting the law. They have now gone back to what we had in the 70s. If you don't see the gun pointing at you, you can't shoot the guy. If you wait till you can identify that weapon as a gun, you, the officer, are already dead. You can't wait that. That's why the Supreme Court of the United States said, no, if they act like they have a weapon, you can assume it's a weapon, and you can defend yourself as if they have a weapon. Now, liberals are trying to change that, and every time I get questioned or my deputies get questioned about something like that, the question is, did you see a gun? I didn't have to see a gun. He reached into his waistband quickly and started bringing his hand up towards me. That allows me to assume he's reaching for a weapon, and if I have no other option, I can shoot the man. I have a man now, a police officer who's in the hospital because he got run over by a car. Because rather than shoot the driver, you are supposed to run away. And there's a point at which you can shoot the driver, but people are so nervous about losing their jobs, they don't do what they need to do to protect you or to protect themselves. And that puts the officers in danger, makes them less able to protect you, less willing to protect you. They will get calls and they respond slowly because they're waiting for more people. They're waiting for it to take care of itself. You have to allow law enforcement to do their job within the law. You have to stop maligning law enforcement. Everyone's on the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Unit, what we call ICE right now. ICE is doing what they are constitutionally obligated to do. Have they made mistakes? Absolutely. Throughout history, police officers make mistakes. Deputy sheriffs make mistakes. Federal agents make mistakes. Are they honest mistakes or are they done intentionally? Well, as we know from a famous former Chicago police commander, sometimes it's done on purpose. He was abusing people that were under arrest and he got what he deserved. I do not support bad cops. Never, ever will I support a bad cop. But what you've been told is a bad cop is not necessarily a bad cop. We are also using something called the Brady Doctrine. You can look that up. It's Brady versus Maryland 1963 that said that prosecutors have to reveal all exculpatory evidence to the defense. The problem is it's the prosecution that decides what's exculpatory. So how is that fair? It's not. Furthermore, they often still do not do it, and when they do not do it, they do not get punished for it. Almost no prosecutor has ever been prosecuted under the Brady Doctrine. But we follow the Brady Doctrine's progeny, and we find that it's being used against police officers now because now Brady Doctrine has incorporated truthfulness in police reports. Excessive force, which has nothing to do with truthfulness, but if you use excessive force, you can be labeled as a Brady cop, you get fired, or you can never get promoted. We hired 30 new deputies, and 12 of them, after 1 week on the job, went upstairs and quit because it is so dangerous in the jail. We are forcing people to work 16 hours a day, every day. They're watching more than one tier, which a lot of you would think of as a cell block, and that's against the law. But it's the only way we can run the jail right now. The people aren't getting the training they need. They're not getting the discipline they need. I'm getting away with this. I'm getting away with this. I'm getting away with more. I've had deputies tell me, I'm not doing that job. In the sheriff's department, they argue with you about everything. It doesn't help morale. It doesn't help people learn that I have to do my job the way I'm supposed to do my job.
So not a politician, I could tell. The way you're speaking, the frankness of it, it's not political speech. It's common sense. I try to pay attention, and I know about 20% of what you're talking about. We're intentionally made to remain ignorant as the people. And you have all this media outlets and all this news, but it's news. It's not information. We need information. This show needs to get out, share it around, let people hear from this gentleman on what he's talking about and the issues he sees. When you're talking about the criminals know the changes that they've made. The people that have made these policies that have never actually been in law enforcement are making insane policies that does not allow the police to do their job. And the criminals know it. The criminals know they could get away in a high-speed chase and the police are not going to pursue. And that seems to be the problem. You got people that are in these positions, like maybe currently, have no clue, and is just a political person. We need people again, people with common sense, and this chain of command and discipline, I didn't think you went too far at all. Everything runs on that. Any organization, especially military, police, you need that. And you need that respect. And that respect commands respect. Why don't you bullet point for me some solutions you would seek to implement if elected Cook County Sheriff? Why don't you tell the people that are listening the type of campaign you intend on running here? And if they like what you're saying, how they could help you?
Okay, the solutions is, number one, we have to put enforcement back into law enforcement, which was my motto in the last election. We have to put discipline back into the department, which means we have to get the supervisors to follow the rules and to enforce the rules. That is the top-down thing. We got to stop locking up the mentally ill. We got to put them in residential psychiatric facilities. Now, I'm not talking about people who don't have a conscience. Those are criminals. And there are people who tell you, I'm a criminal, I'm always going to be a criminal. Well, those people need to stay in jail. So those are part of my solutions. Everyone, no matter their race, no matter their income level, has the same opportunity to work, to get an education. We have to change the environment of how people think. This idea of America assimilating to 20 different cultures is destroying our country and causing tribalism. So if it's destroying the country, it's destroying the county. I was told in the police academy that 6 carry little knives on them. And because it's their religious belief that if I arrest one, I can't take that knife from him. That's ridiculous. He can stab me with that knife, or she can. I guess the females don't carry them. He can stab me with that knife. So I should be able to take it from him. There are certain things where your religious beliefs should not outweigh officer safety. So changing the cultures, changing the environments, changing people speaking about racism that does not exist. Is there racism? There is, but it's more on an individual level. And if you find it truly at a systemic level, I'll stand right there with you and fight it every step of the way. Everyone looks at me and says, oh, he's Caucasian. I know we use the term white, but there's no such thing as a white person. There's actually no such thing as a black person. Everyone is some shade of brown. They really are. And I'm actually mixed race. So I don't focus on that. I don't want anyone else to focus on that. Look at people. When you decide who to elect, don't look at the party. Look at the candidate regardless of his party. I'm running on their libertarian ticket because I need fewer signatures, because we have something here called ballot access problems. If you run as an independent, you need 25,000 signatures. And if you don't have a lot of money, if you're not rich like J.B. Pritzker or some of these other people, you're never going to get 25,000 signatures to get on the ballot. And that's how they control ballot access. The Libertarians only have ballot access in Cook County. They do not have statewide ballot access because they couldn't get that many signatures. I'm more conservative, but they believe in individualism. And to a degree, so do I. They believe in smaller government, lower taxes, and more equal law enforcement, which is what I believe in. And I haven't given you all of my solutions, and I do have to give credit where credit is deserved. The current administration has put in some mental health programs, but they all work after you're arrested, after you have the X on your back. My goal is to get the X off of the back of the people who have mental health problems. This changes the culture. This changes the environment. This makes people feel like they can go out and accomplish something that are not being held back through any kind of victimization, whether it's race victimization, political victimization, environmental or cultural victimization.
So a couple things I heard there as far as the victim mentality, which I sense too, and I feel like people use that to lord over individuals. If anyone's got a testimony that says, you don't have to be a victim, it's you. I mean, I heard what your upbringing was like. You could certainly have just chosen to just be a victim for the rest of your life, and you never felt sorry for yourself. As far as the race thing, I agree 100%. We're all one race. I tell people all the time, we're the human race. The colors are a distraction, and it divides, and it's only used by people that seek to divide and conquer us. And as far as democracy, that's a word we hear a lot about, and who's a threat to democracy and who's not. The fact that the system is so set up that unless you got a ton of money, you can't get on a ballot. Because like I said, there's certain politicians out there, they got armies of paid people. They're not volunteers, they're paid. They're paid, and it's a machine to get these signatures and do all this legwork. So if anything, if we could get that resolved, I think we got a lot more refreshing candidates that are actually people that can do the job and not politicians. So we're going to wrap it up here, Brad. Why don't you tell people your website, how they could help you?
First thing I want to tell you is this. I've been passing out my cards. The phone number on my cards, if you happen to be someone who got one, is actually to me personally. I don't have a campaign phone number. I don't have the money for an office. So I need help. I need people who are willing to circulate, which means go get signatures on the nominating petitions. You have to be honest about it and do it right. It's a little bit of work because you got to sign it and get it notarized that you collected the signatures. Obviously, you need donations. Campaigns cannot run without donations. You need volunteers. Campaigns can't run without volunteers because without donations, I can't pay people. And if I'm paying people, I can't advertise. So even if you can't do that, if you are in social media, you can talk about me. Go tell everyone on social media, look this guy up. But you can't look at me on my website yet because it's not up. I actually had a high school kid who was all about mental health. And so he said, I'll do your website for free if you let us put our mental health things on the website. And I said, that's fine, because some of what you're involved in, I'm already involved with. So those are actually on my website, but you can't click on them. If you go to my website, it shows my picture, the actual website, and it's the website through which people can do donations. So I need an IT guy. I need someone who knows, if you know anything about campaign finance and fundraising, because I hate taking money from people, but you can't run a campaign without money. So I need somebody who's not afraid to go out there and fundraise so that we get a more balanced society going out there where everyone feels like they can do what they need to do and they can live free and they don't have to worry about being attacked every time they walk around a corner. If you want to help, call me, 312-909-1670. That's 312-909-1670. Talk to me. Tell me where you are. Tell me how you can help and what you're willing to do. And I'm going to appreciate you all the way. I mean, we're looking for good people with good integrity who believe in knocking politics back down to representing the people that you are elected to represent.
I'll affirm that it's just his cell number because he gave me his card and I called him, and that's how we got this meeting set up. So just a guy running, doing what he thinks right. We should applaud him for that. Brad, thanks for taking the initiative to run. I know it's not easy. Talk to you soon.
Sing it!
Thanks for joining us for another episode. I hope I got you thinking and out of your comfort zone. Believe me, the biggest fear your government has is a population that is thinking and talking to one another. So get out there, take a risk, start a conversation, make a friend, and reason with each other. Share the show with someone who you think needs to hear it. I wish you peace and love.